Hey, Larry.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you speak on founder design thinking.
Yeah, this is fun. This is fun. I really appreciate you reaching out. This is cool.
You're kind of already a podcast star, right?
Star, yeah. I've been doing podcasting for about 7 years, 6 or 7 years. And so I have three different podcasts that I'm doing right now. So yeah, I keep busy with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm honored to have a star amongst us.
Yeah.
And you're
Superstar,
gonna,
right. Yeah.
well, you are a superstar because you're gonna tell us how you juggle these kind of three careers and
Mm,
identities yourself and how other people can do it as well.
sure, sure. Yeah, happy to talk about it.
Well, I'll do a quick intro and then I'll turn it over to you for your intro and then we'll get into questions. So,
Okay.
everyone, welcome to episode 26 of Founder Design Thinking, where the podcast's goal is to find more than 10 unicorns like us. I'm Jay Z, and I love consulting companies, taking them from zero to one. I also provide software on creativity, opportunity sizing, and note taking. Schedule time with me at the not Calendly link below to get more customers and design think to grow your product. Help me welcome Larry by commenting your location in the chat. Larry, please introduce yourself.
Sure, sure. So I'm Larry Cornett. I'm a psychologist, believe it or not, and product and design executive turned leadership and career coach. And I basically help people do more of the work they love and less of what they hate. That's the goal.
Awesome. That's a tall order since
Yeah,
there
yeah. It is. It is. It is.
uh, so many realities to deal with. But tell us how you pivoted yourself from IC to leader in a company and then, became your own solopreneur.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I got my start with a PhD in psychology, and my advisor was really into human computer interaction. And so that's how I found out about Silicon Valley and software and this entire career around software design. So my first job was as a IC, as a designer and researcher at IBM. Uh, then I went to Apple Computer, which was still Apple Computer back then. Now it's just Apple. More design work. Left Apple to join a startup, and I got my first taste of entrepreneurship doing that. And started my own kind of tiny design agency as an entrepreneur right after our startup was acquired, and then the parent company said thanks for the IP and laid everybody off. So that was my first experience with a mega company taking your IP, laying you all off, and saying goodbye. So I did that for a while, and then I went back into the corporate world and I joined eBay. So this was quite a while ago. This is when I made a decision to go into management. So I'd been an independent designer, a consultant, an individual contributor. And my boss there said, yeah, you really should look at doing management. And so I went into design management and enjoyed it. I really like helping people. I like solving problems. I like fighting the good fight for people. So I did well there. I got promoted until I was a director of design at eBay. And then I left for an opportunity at Yahoo to join the search team and became a search design executive. So I was a VP of design under Larry Tesler, who was an amazing individual, as many people in design know. And then did a shift. I went into product. So I became a VP of product and design at Yahoo for Yahoo Search and really loved it. I love getting on the product side and looking at the business and the metrics and all that kind of stuff. Left after the Microsoft deal and said, what do I do now? And that's when I started doing some startup consulting. I did my own startup for a while. And then about 7 years ago, I kind of landed on this idea of why don't I design my own career and do what I love, which has always been coaching my team, coaching people. And so I started with career coaching, and that has shifted over the years to include leadership coaching. And then the last couple of years, adding business coaching too.
Amazing. So we both started as designers. I didn't know that you started as a designer. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. that's my background.
As I've been doing this podcast, there are very few designers who become founders.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. More now. I would say when I first looked at this idea of entrepreneurship and joining a startup was way back when this little company called Netscape started hiring people away from Apple, and some web startups kind of started around that time. And I was like, that sounds exciting. I want to be in a startup. And the reality was people were like, no, we just want engineers, only engineers. Yeah. And that persisted for a long time because I think it was really hard technically to build the infrastructure to have your own startup. But the world has changed in the last 10 years. The tools are amazing. So somebody with an idea, like a designer who can design an experience and understands customers, can use all these platforms and spin up a startup in days. So I think we're going to see a lot more design founders now.
Yeah, one of the future episodes will be no code game design. So exactly like designers, no coding. And
that's exciting.
You're right. So welcome, Danielle. Welcome from Oregon, and welcome, Erica from New York City.
Cool.
I miss New York.
I do shopping. Too. I got to get back.
I know, right? Yeah. So Danielle, Erica, anyone, feel free to comment your questions as we go along. But back to you, Larry. I thought that you started your consulting for solopreneurs and you kind of like worked backwards.
Yeah. Okay. So when I first started doing, I don't know if I called it Invincible Career back then. I don't think I did. It was still under Brilliant Forge, kind of the umbrella company. So when I first started consulting and coaching with people 7 years ago, I wanted to basically convince people to become solopreneurs like I had. So I was really interested in taking people from their 9-to-5 job, helping them make a plan to escape, which I have seen the other side and how exciting it is. And I started talking with people. My first client was like, I'm not ready for that. That's scary. I don't know if I want to do that. Can you just help me get a new job? I just want to get a new job. I want to get out of the company I'm in, kind of a bad experience, and get a new job. And so I said, sure, let's work on a plan and a roadmap to get you a new job. And that kind of snowballed. So it became more and more career coaching, people trying to get jobs, people trying to get promoted, people trying to deal with leadership issues as they moved into management. And it's only in the last couple of years, and I think I talk about this, I think a lot of it's due to the pandemic and people questioning, what makes me happy? What is my life about? Is work my life? When am I going to take the leap and become a solopreneur or an entrepreneur? If not now, when? And so I've had a lot more people in the last few years that are saying, okay, I'm ready now. I'm ready to become a solopreneur. How do I take all this experience that I have from my career and from whatever I've been doing in my primary first act career, I like to call it, and transfer that into a business? How do I create a business plan? How do I find customers? How do I do all that? So it's only now they've kind of circled back to add solopreneurship back into it, which I love. And I love doing that kind of coaching. But yeah, it took a while to get people excited about it.
Hey, Stanton. Thanks for joining from Chicago.
Chicago, cool.
Yeah. So Larry, you're saying that you started as a solopreneur, but people were starting as ICs, and so you met them there. You pivoted due to your customers, due to design.
Got to listen, like and I should know, right? We do this all the time when we work in tech. It's like talk to your customers, listen to your customers. And I had the idea, and I wanted to do it, but it wasn't what my customers wanted, so I had to listen. And I said, okay. I hear you. You keep asking for it. You want career coaching. I'm going to give you career coaching. So yeah, I had to pivot, had to listen to my customers and do what they wanted.
How did they tell you? Like you were pitching solopreneur and they were like, I want this, but I want something else. Or like you had to listen to like 10 people before you pivoted. Tell me about that process.
Yeah, I mean, I listened pretty quickly. It was my first client, who's still kind of an on and off client, and we're good friends now, actually. It's been a friendship that started many, many years ago. He's the one that kind of kicked me off down this path and said, yeah, it's exciting, but maybe someday. And so I kind of was keeping a foot in both, I'll call it both boats. So I do recommend this for a lot of folks. It's pretty easy now to spin up a business and test it. So I have, the Brilliant Forge consulting that I do with startups mostly. I have Invincible Career, which is all the career coaching and leadership coaching. I have Invincible Solopreneurs, which is all about solopreneurs. And I've recently just added Invincible Life to kind of be a home for the book that I'm writing. And so I kept them all running, and I was testing different marketing messages, and I was seeing where the referrals were coming from. A lot of my business is referrals. A lot of my business comes from my writing, which we can talk about more. They would reach out and they're like, that resonated. I'm frustrated. I'm tired of work. I'd love to be an entrepreneur someday, but I just need a better job right now. And so they kept asking, I just need a better job. I just need a better job. So I said, okay, let's get you a better job on the way to becoming an entrepreneur someday. I really want you to become an entrepreneur. So I've been coaching some people for almost 7 years now that have kept me on as a coach, retained coach for a long time. And now they are reaching the point where they're like, okay, let's start looking at ideas for the business that I could start. So it took them a while, but some of them are ready now.
I see. So I have so many questions. Well, Danielle, Erica, Stanton, please comment if you have questions. I guess my question is, before we get to that, like testing all those 3 podcasts and 3 revenue streams that you have, what advice do you give people who are unhappy in their career, either want to move up internally or move to a different company? Or for now, like a lot of people who got laid off, do you have any blind spots or golden nuggets?
Oh, yeah. I think the most important thing, and I tell people in tech this all the time, is like that same process you apply to your products, you should apply to yourself. And this is how you can distance yourself emotionally from it, because it is very emotional. It's stressful to get laid off. It's hard to be out of work. Interviewing is no fun. When you start to realize I'm essentially a product that a company is buying to get an outcome, right? They're going to buy me with my salary. I'm going to provide a service, and they want that to yield a certain outcome for the company, product metrics, business metrics, whatever it might be. The sooner you can think of yourself that way, the easier it is to market yourself and say, I'm going to sell you exactly what you need. I'm going to listen to you in your job description, in the interviews, in the conversations. I'm going to stalk you online and find out what you care about as an executive. And I'm going to speak that language like a good salesperson does. I think people need to become salespeople and marketers. And I didn't realize that until much later in my career and in my business, that it's like, I've really got to embrace sales and marketing. And as an individual in a career, it's sales and marketing. You've got to become the most attractive product on the market that they can't live without. And that's what you do.
We have a question in the chat, but before we get there, what about all the people who find like that to be totally icky, like sales and marketing?
Sure. Yeah, I get that. The cool thing about it is I don't like to do it kind of blatant kind of marketing and bragging and all the showboating and stuff that you see. It's really about storytelling. And so the thing that I recommend for everybody is to start writing about kind of what you do and the emotional experiences you've had and how you came through the other side. So we've all been faced with challenges at work. Things that were a problem we took on, they went sideways. No project's ever perfect. No work relationship's ever perfect. And we kind of just gut through it and then move on and try to forget about it. But everybody's experiencing that. Everybody has that pain. Everybody has the fear that they're not good enough. They have imposter syndrome. The more you can write about that and say, here's what I faced. Here's how I attacked it. Here are the lessons I learned. Here's how I came out the other side. I want to help you do that too. And you're just telling stories. You're telling stories. You're not bragging, oh, I'm an expert and I know everything and I got it right 100% the first time. Of course you didn't. And people want to cover that up, but that's not the reality of our lives. So talk about the messy stuff. Talk about the human stuff. Talk about how you dealt with it and how you came out the other side and you were successful. You got promoted or the project got done on time or whatever it might be. And then share it. Share that stuff. The more you can share it, the more people will read it. It's going to resonate emotionally. They're going to say, I'm feeling that way too. This is really helpful advice. And they're going to start following you. They're going to listen to you. the more you can talk about that stuff, the more people are going to see you and the more people are going to want to hire you, work with you. We like to work with good people, right? And if you can show I'm a good person and I know what I'm doing and I'm good at what I do, and I'm not going to say that, I'm going to show that. I'm going to take you through it.
So you're saying that, everything on LinkedIn is like Instagram super polished, right? Like I'm perfect.
Yeah,
I did all this and
yeah. I hate that stuff.
I hate that stuff too. And I think that, what I myself do not follow, but this advice rings so true about storytelling is that facing your vulnerabilities and showing your weakness on Instagram and LinkedIn is incredibly like clickbait engaging.
Super powerful. Yeah. Yeah. People follow the perfect people, but they don't really believe it. I think we all know it's smoke and mirrors. I find, like you're saying, I think the vulnerability is what people want because they want to connect with you. They want to feel like you understand me and you are messy like me. You're a human being and yet you still were able to succeed. Okay, how can I do that too? Can you show me how to do that?
Yeah, and invariably in product and design, there is like personality and drama, and that never goes away. So how we face that, it's like that's half the job. So
lots of drama.
All right, well, Danielle has a really excellent question about this kind of like in between space. She's writing, what is the difference between a solopreneur and freelancer? Are you doing a bit of both?
These lines are blurred, right? So the small business owner, entrepreneur, freelancer, solopreneur, they're very blurred. The big difference I see, for example, between a solopreneur and a typical entrepreneur and business owner is you are really just going to be a one-person army. You do not, because you've experienced it, you don't want to hire employees. You don't want to deal with all that. You may work with contractors. You may partner with people. But you don't want somebody on the books because it's stressful. And especially going through the economic times like this, is like, I have to fire somebody because the business isn't doing well. I feel terrible about that. Freelancer and solopreneur are pretty close. I mean, I used to do a lot of consulting and contracting. I'd say the biggest difference is you really are thinking with a business mindset as a solopreneur. So as a freelancer, you may sign up for a service and you may put yourself on all these contracting services and it's basically a hired gun, right? They hire you for this rate and they work with you and they book you through the platform and all that kind of stuff. Solopreneur and a business owner is like you run the whole show. You've got to get good at sales and marketing. You got to run your own website. You got to set up your own systems to book time with you, whatever it might be. So you're really a real business owner running a micro business of one versus jumping on every platform that's out there trying to drum up business. So you're not going to be in all these platforms. I'm not on any of the platforms. I don't want to be. It's my business. It's my brand. I'm not going to build their brand. So I think that's the big difference. As a solopreneur, I want to build my brand for my business.
Interesting. So you're saying that are you orchestrating like a whole business or can you still freelance, but like get your brand?
You could. I mean, that's the cool thing about being a solopreneur. You can do whatever you want. It's like, if I want to do some hired work for a corporation, I can do that. I can come and do that. Many times they're going to be hiring me through my business, through my corporation. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be what they're doing the contract with is my corporation. As a freelancer, it's a little bit different. And I kind of find it frustrating. So I worked with one big corporation I won't name that did not want to do that. They wanted me to go through their freelancing partner who handled all that stuff. It was a nightmare of paperwork and contracts and background checks. And they were taking a percentage of my stuff. And I'm like, who are you? You don't get a percentage of me. Forget you. I like to go direct. And so a lot of freelancers will work through platforms like Upwork or whatever they're called now. And you end up sharing a percentage with the platform and, they market you, they promote you. Sometimes they cap how much you can charge. They're like, nobody on the platform charges more than this. So you can't charge more than that. It's like, why not? If I'm that good, I'll charge whatever I want if I'm in demand. You don't get to decide what my rates are. No way. So I don't know. I think that's the big difference. And you can mix and match. I mean, as a solopreneur, once you're not an employee, do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. And that's why I have several lines of business. I test stuff all the time.
Okay. And then if you're launching a product on your own, like a tech product, do you still have a board if you're not like VC backed?
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Right?
As an LLC, I'm a sole LLC member, so I don't have a board. I don't have investors. I don't have any of that stuff. My startup did. So my startup was a full-blown corporation, and I had investors. So I did take seed investment, and I had to form a board, and we had to have meetings, and I had to have all that stuff. It's a lot. It's a headache. It's such a headache. But as an LLC, a sole member, I can do whatever I want. It's very easy. You can spin it up in one day. That's what's so cool about it.
Yeah, instead of a C Corp with all of the government.
Yeah. Okay. There are benefits. I mean, I will give this advice. Talk to your accountant. Talk to your accountant, talk to your lawyer, because it really depends on the kind of business you're creating. Some businesses have a lot more liability risk than others.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have employees, that's also a huge liability risk and things that you have to take on that you don't as a sole proprietor or a solopreneur. So talk to a lawyer, talk with your accountant, and make sure you have the right formation for your business.
All right. So Danielle has another amazing question. The thing I've struggled with in building case studies for my portfolio is quantifying my impact with metrics and numbers. I've worked at several companies that didn't make that kind of info readily available or accessible, or it's been so long that I don't remember. Do you have any advice for quantifying your impact with the stories you tell about yourself?
Yeah. So it is true. I mean, metrics are powerful. Numbers are powerful. What I tell people is that it's important to move away on your resume and on LinkedIn if you're going to be putting this information out there. Move away from the roles and responsibility stuff. Like, I designed a software product that did this for checkout for e-commerce. Like, so did everyone, right? Everybody writes that kind of stuff. So the next best thing is do a qualitative kind of thing that you feel comfortable with. We saw a pretty huge increase in conversion when we made this change to the checkout product, or used my design for the checkout product. Even better in numbers. So you have to kind of look back and you have to use the numbers that are publicly available. The companies will have this stuff, right? So they're going to have information about growth in revenue, growth in subscribers, growth in users. And while it isn't necessarily a one-to-one, if you combine your qualitative impact with a publicly available quantitative impact, now you can say the company had a fantastic quarter. They grew revenue by 150 million. We saw a huge lift in conversion through the product that I redesigned. That's all I have to say. I don't have to go into the details. If it's available, and sometimes it is, then you can use it. So a lot of times they will drop some of that stuff into press releases. Executives will give talks. There'll be presentations at conferences. I tell people who are designers in particular, reach out to your product management partners. So I had somebody do this and they said, man, I was there 5 years ago. I don't remember. And I said, you know who remembers? Because they care and they have that stuff in their own resume. your product manager. And they said, really? And I said, message your product manager and say, what was the checkout conversion number that we had for that project that we had in 2001? And they're like, oh yeah, I have that number. And they do. And then you can use it, right? Now you have it. So that helps. So as soon as you can find a public instance of that, it's already been released. It's out there. And you can say, 25% increase in conversion. They're not going to be angry about you reaching out to them. People you enjoyed working with, you had a great project together. Reach out and say, do you have those metrics? Did we talk about it? Can I share it? And they'll say, yes, you can. Or they can say, I wish I could, but we can't. And so then you have to be qualitative. You have to be qualitative about it.
Yeah, I get really upset when my designers don't reach back out. I'm like, you didn't send me a GIF, where were you? So I mean, it's nice to reach out.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so Bruce is asking or saying.
Hey, Bruce. I know Bruce.
Hey, Bruce.
How you doing, man? Good to see you.
And Eric and Terry also have comments, so we're jamming.
Yeah, we are. Oh, hey, Terry.
Bruce, thanks for attending. So solopreneurs get E&O insurance. What?
Yeah. So it's kind of like errors and omissions, right? It's I do. So I do when I work with corporations in particular, is I have pretty affordable insurance that I had to get to work with one corporate client. They're like, you need to have this. I'm like, fine. It's kind of ridiculous. It's like, you want me as an individual to provide you with coverage, a multi-billion-dollar company, if something goes wrong with this software. It's like, I'm not coding it. I'm not providing infrastructure for it. Fine. It wasn't that much to get it. I still have it. But basically, it provides a little bit of protection if something goes wrong. But if you do your job and you did everything you were supposed to do, this insurance protects you, right? If you screw up, if you leak the code, if you give it to somebody, or if you deliberately didn't do something you were supposed to do, you're going to be in trouble, right? And that's like anything. But if you do your job and you do it to the best of your ability and you follow the letter of the contract that you have with them, the insurance will cover you and protect you.
Wow. How do you and Bruce know each other?
We worked together at eBay many, many years ago. Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Moving on to Erica. Do you have a website?
Yes.
Is it necessary, like a full-fledged website, or just a simple landing page for content and a thorough LinkedIn page with offerings, description of expertise? I'm a design-specific recruiter starting my own business. Go, Erica. I am building a Google slide deck. Friend is designing it with my sales pitch and offerings, with my value profit.
Cool.
Luckily, I have lots of designer pals who want to help me out. So, yeah, Larry,
I love it.
You mentioned that now with all the no code and like AI, web builders, do you want to share your tech stack, or do you have any of that ready?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So I've been using WordPress since the beginning of time. I'm trying to think. I think I started using WordPress in 2002, if I remember right, 2002, 2003. Back when it was messy and hard to use. Like, it was really hard. So you're kind of on your own, with the open source stuff. It's gotten so good over the years. It's so easy to use now. You can host with WordPress themselves. There's tons of hosting companies that provide it. So I use a lot of WordPress, and I have it buttoned up with security and all kinds of stuff to make it much better performance, tighter protection against hacking and all that kind of stuff, which used to happen in the old days. But even now, it's super, super easy. So I still have WordPress. Card, so card.co, CARRD.co. You can have a website up, mobile friendly, beautiful, gorgeous, in like 15 minutes. It's like so easy. And it connects to everything, right? You can connect it to your Calendly. You can connect it to Stripe or PayPal or whatever to get payments. You can have it up and running and have your business up and running in one day, less than a day, a couple of hours. So I do believe in having a website. You want a place to send people when they ask questions. So there's always going to be questions, right? People are like, tell me more about your services, or what's this about, or who are you? What's your background? You're going to get tired of answering that over and over and over again. You shouldn't have to. And every time you put any kind of content into the world, whether it's in LinkedIn or Twitter or Medium or whatever, drive people in your funnel back to your website. Start building up the SEO for it. And you don't want to be sending SEO love to Facebook or to LinkedIn or to Twitter. Why are you giving them the SEO love? They don't need it. Send it to your own website. So it's basically kind of a sales page. Just use it as a marketing page. And like I said, Card is so easy. There's no excuse not to have it up and running. You don't even need a designer. They have tons of templates. So it's like, it's gorgeous. It's so easy. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's fantastic.
What about the rest of your tech stack? So you have the funnel. Yeah. This is the beginning. Where do you monetize or drive retention?
Right.
Do you have a CRM? Do you use AI?
I've just recently started using AI to ask. It's kind of an interesting twist. So I have my own coach. Every coach should have a coach.
Okay.
So I have my own coach who said there's a better way to use AI. Don't use it to generate content because you're the expert. Why is AI generating your content? And it ends up being a lot of garbage half the time. So it's like, you do it. I hope you know your stuff, because if you read it, you'll be like, half of that's true, half of that's not true. Half of that is totally fabricated. So there's all kinds of weird errors creeping into generative AI. A much better thing is to say, Here are the people I'm trying to reach. Here are my ideal customers. Here's what I do. What questions do you think they would have for me? What would you ask me? What would convince you to hire me? And it will ask you really good questions. So it's kind of helping you generate an FAQ. So AI says, how do you, work with clients? How do you make sure it's a money back guarantee? How do you do this? How do you do that? So you get this huge list of questions and then you write the answers, which is fantastic. And so this ends up being great content for your website, great content for LinkedIn, for Twitter, whatever it might be. So AI works for that. I've started using it that way. My stack is, I always believe, don't build your house on rented land. So the biggest mistake people make is they build their house, their business, on rented land. So they're like, I'm going to put it on Facebook and have a Facebook page. Stupid. I mean, sure, have one, but that should not be your primary home. I know somebody that lost everything. They lost a multi-million-dollar business that was on Facebook, and they don't know what happened or why, but they got their account shut down, probably something through the advertising they were doing. Gone. I know another person who was making a couple $1 million a year that was doing everything through TikTok, got their account suspended. Sales went through the floor. I mean, it was horrible. It's like, don't do that. Do not have your primary home on someone else's land that you don't control, that you don't control the algorithm. You don't control if you could get suspended or kicked off the platform. So I have my own platform. I have my own website. I own the domain. I know how to run it through WordPress. I'll use Card for some stuff, but it's like, if it doesn't work, so what? I can fall back to something else, right? And then I'm creating content on places like, I recommend Substack. Substack is amazing. I'm going to tell everybody here that you better have a Substack. It's free. It's a newsletter service. It's an email list. It's a free podcast hosting service. You can add video. It does transcriptions through AI now for free. Free. And then if you want to turn into a premium product, you can. So you can say, my premium subscribers can pay $5 a month to get my best articles, that have time to talk with me, whatever. And then Substack takes a percentage. They don't charge you anything as a flat fee. It's only if you're making money do they make money. Kind of like Gumroad. I use Gumroad too. So that's fantastic. And then the same content that I put on Substack for my newsletter and my articles and my podcast, I put on Medium, because you can copy paste. No one has exclusive rights to your content. It's yours. So I copy paste articles on Medium, which has been driving referrals for me for 6+ years. It's been a great funnel for my business. Copy paste and put it on LinkedIn. And then I take snippets and I put that on Twitter, and I put it on Instagram, and I put it on TikTok and all kinds of stuff. And now I'm taking my podcast and I'm pushing the audio to YouTube. So I have videos with the audio for my podcast. I'm a big believer in make the content once and distribute it everywhere. Push it everywhere. But everything should funnel back to getting people on your email list and getting people to your website. Because that's what you own. And that's what you can take with you no matter where you go.
Yeah. So you're saying your owned and operated assets, like your website, has everything. It's home. And then you push it out into all these different channels.
It's like distribution channels, right? So it's just like a product. You make a product, you build it in your factory, and then you sell it through all the distribution channels. You have online channels, you have retail channels. They don't own your product. Walmart doesn't own your product, you do. Walmart is just a channel. And if something goes wrong, you're like, okay, fine, Walmart, we're done. I'm pushing it through Amazon now. Doesn't matter. And Amazon doesn't own your product. You do. So that's the way to think of it, as kind of a hub and spoke model, that you own the home and no one can take that away from you ever. Your email list is yours forever because you can download it into a spreadsheet and no one can take that away from you. And all the followers that you have on Twitter and LinkedIn, you don't own those. Those could disappear overnight. You don't control that. So don't let that be your only way to contact people.
Yeah. So I was thinking about LinkedIn versus Substack, but you're saying like homegrown, owned and operated first all the time. And then maybe Substack and then maybe
and
LinkedIn.
Then Medium and then LinkedIn. Yeah. It's all layers of distribution channels because what happens if Substack goes under? The thing that's happened to me, because I'm old and I've been doing this for a long time, companies vanish overnight. They fail and disappear. Companies get acquired and shut down. Google has acquired and shut down so many of the services I used to love and use.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like the company went under. The guys made good money. The founders made good money. But then Google absorbed the features into their product and then shut down the service. And now I'm like, great, I got to find a new service for this.
Yeah.
So can't trust any of those channels. You need to have stuff that you own and operate. Absolutely.
So we have this anonymous user who says, I know a PM who ran those e-com conversion programs and drove billions of revenue for a large corp. So you should do that for yourself. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Where is this? I guess I don't see that question. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Do you see it on the bottom of our
Yeah, there it is. It just came up.
screen? Okay.
Yeah. That's the frustrating thing, right? There's quite a few people who are really starting to come out in the solopreneur world, and they're like, do you want to give your intellectual capital to a company that makes billions from it, and you make, a couple $100,000, maybe if you're lucky, you're making $1 million a year, and you're driving billions in revenue with your creativity and your ideas, and you're not seeing a percentage of that. I wish we could get a percentage of that. At some point, it's time to take all that expertise that you have and go out on your own and make a good living doing it, right? And have the freedom.
Yeah, I think in terms of, I lost my thought. Okay, let's move on to this. There's so many comments, so everyone, thank you. Erica's asking about pricing. How do
That's a good one.
you do like competitive analysis of other consultants and solopreneurs?
Yeah. So I like to come at pricing from multiple angles and try to triangulate. So one is, you certainly should be doing competitive analysis. So try to find proxies for whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a service you're providing or a good you're selling or a software platform you're building. Who are your competitors? So who is in that consideration set and what are they charging for it? And then take a hard look and be honest with yourself. It's like, am I the same as them? Am I a little less experienced than them? Or am I more experienced than them? Am I more valuable than them because I have something very unique? And then you can decide, should I price a little bit lower? Should I price a little bit higher? So that's going to be one of your things you're going to triangulate. The other is to take a look at kind of the end result income. What do I need to survive? And so not being greedy, not saying I need an island, I'm going to buy Tahiti, but basically saying, what do I need to pay my bills, pay my rent, provide for myself? And how does that translate into a monthly income? And how does that translate into the services or the goods I'm selling? So what can I reasonably do as throughput for sales? And what does that mean I need to charge? Whether it's a package or it's going to be an hourly rate or whatever, what does it need to be to generate enough income for you to survive? Because that's important. If you're not, you got a problem. And so you'll have to say, either I've got to charge more and find a way to add more value, or I've got to have more businesses going. So if I can only get 10 hours a week doing this kind of consulting, I got to spin up another business and do more consulting, like work with startups or whatever it might be. So you're trying to figure that out. And then the other thing is value-based, which is what they always tell you to do with pricing, right? So don't get into the habit of selling your time. That's not fun. It's really about, what value am I delivering? How much is this worth to this person? I was just talking with another career coach about this. So they were coaching somebody. This person was going to be making about 10K a month, kind of 120 a year. And they said the person was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to pay a couple $100 to have a call with you to help me get a job. I said, they really need to think about the value. It's like, they can struggle, and they do, because we have the data to show it. They could struggle for a month to get a job, or they could work with you and get a job. And now they spent $200 to make $10,000. Or they could jerk around and do all kinds of stupid stuff that people do, be out of work for another month or two, and now they've saved $200, but they've lost $10,000 a month of opportunity. You got to somehow explain that to people. That's the value-based stuff. It's like, you work with me, you're going to land this job, you're going to make 10K this month instead of another month without income. So that's an important way to think about it. It's like, what am I delivering to these individuals, and how much is it worth to solve their pain, right? What is the value of that?
Yeah, and I'm also, in terms of like cost benefit, I am doing 20% from referrals. So if anyone refers me need to do research work or design thinking facilitation, I will definitely give you 20%. It's totally worth it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of this business is referrals, right? So it's going to be happy clients. It's going to be partners, people you've worked with. We send each other business all the time. So that happens a lot. Yeah.
All right. So two more questions from the podcast script. So in terms of brainstorming divergent ideas and then converging on the most valuable idea, how do you do this in your solopreneurship or with your clients?
Yeah. So this is a lot of what we do because there's no one size fits all solution. So the coaches that think there's a cookie cutter process you can follow, like buy my program and you'll be doing XYZ at the end of this. That's not usually the case. It doesn't usually work that way. Everybody's a different individual. Everybody has a different background. They have different goals. So a lot of it is thinking very strategically like you would with a business or a product that you're trying to launch and saying, well, what is the end goal that we want? What do you want to achieve? What does success look like? What are we going to do to measure that success so we know you've achieved it or not? And then let's start thinking about the strategy to make that happen. So strategically, what are different ways we could do that? And so we'll brainstorm, like I could try this, or I could do this, whatever it might be, and come up with 5 to 10 different ideas for strategic approaches to achieve that goal. And then you're trying to do a feasibility assessment, saying, okay, what is likely? What is more likely to work out or not? And so you start to winnow down the ideas and say, okay, that's not going to happen, right? Let's just be honest. But these 3 are probably likely. Now let's look at things like velocity. How long will it take to execute that strategy? How hard is it to execute that strategy? What do we think the probability of success is? And then we start to look at that. And we can sometimes test multiple strategies. There's no reason to pick one and march down a path of serial kind of execution. It's like, let's try networking. And we're going to do smart networking, not dumb networking. We're going to start to connect with people people you know from your past, all that kind of stuff. Let's try some content marketing. Let's get you out there as a thought leader. Let's start publishing on your website, Substack, Medium, and start to get some inbound interest and stuff like that. And let's do a laser-like strategy of saying, let's pick 3 target companies that you love, and let's find a way to get inside that company. Let's find your inside champion. So we can execute those in parallel like any product roadmap. No company has one product that all they do is one kind of product line that they're working on. They're trying different things. They have 3 different things going on at once. It's the same with you. So you have your roadmap, and you're like, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to figure out every day, what do I need to do to make progress on that strategy? How do I continue marching forward? And let's do check-ins and evaluate, is it working or not? Are you starting to get inbound interest? Do we need to tune the strategy and try something different? But it is that process of collaboration, because there is no easy cookie cutter solution for everybody that works.
Yeah, so for design thinking brainstorms, it's all about getting those ideas you wouldn't have thought of, like the surprising ideas. So I know you recommend most people stay in their jobs and build their thought leadership while they're employed and for their company.
Yeah.
But have there been any surprising ideas that your clients have thought of that they wouldn't have thought of otherwise?
Yeah, sometimes, you'll discover what I like to do when I do that kind of goal-focused thing is to start doing what they call reverse planning. So there is a process of stepping backwards from a goal instead of moving forwards from here and now. A lot of people do forward planning. A lot of companies, everybody does forward planning. Like, okay, what are we doing this month? What's the quarter? What's the year? And all this stuff. And it kind of puts blinders on where you end up going down a path because it's what you're executing, but you really don't understand all the divergent paths or what could be possible. With reverse planning, you start at the goal and you say, okay, what did it take to get to that goal? What did I have to do the year before that for that to be possible? What are all the ways that could happen? I did this with my own business, right? So I was looking at my goal, which is to get out of the city and get closer to the mountains. And I said, well, how do I do that? Do I get a job in the mountains, working at the hardware store? Do I get a job in a city and have to commute 2 hours every day? Or do I start my own business? And which one is more likely and which one could let me leapfrog to where I want to be in a way that I wouldn't have thought of before? So it really opens up your mind to alternative ways to get to the same goal instead of marching down that path. So there have been a lot of surprises like that. There was one individual I was working with that was planning forward and said, okay, I've got to figure out how long do I stay in Silicon Valley? How long do I work in tech? How do I build up my nest egg? And then get to retirement. And I said, okay, are you going to retire in San Francisco? And he said, oh, no way. I don't want to do that. And I said,
that's a great example.
and it's like, well, where do you want to retire? It's like, let's look at the goal instead of marching forward. And this person wanted to get back to Germany where their family was. And I said, oh, and they're like, well, I got to figure out how to save enough money and then I can retire and then I can move back to Germany. I said, well, let's plan backwards. What if there was a different way to get to Germany like now? What if you could do that? And they're like what? And I said, what if instead of taking a job with a company that's an obvious company and you keep marching down that path, take a job with a company that has a branch office in Germany? And so it may not be as ideal as his other job, but it's going to help you support that goal that you really want, which is more important. So if you can get a job with that company and they could relocate you, which they did 2 years later, and now you're back in Germany 8 years ahead of schedule with your family. Isn't that a better outcome? And it is. And they are, and they're happier. It's like, so
That's brilliant.
It's an interesting way to think about what do you really want instead of just looking forward step by step by step by step, which is what everybody does.
Wow. I mean, thanks for taking that, like all these, additional questions on the fly. And
oh, sure. Absolutely.
You're so unflustered.
I love talking about this stuff.
So Terry is a big fan and she's asking about affiliates.
That can be a really good source of income for some people. And it depends on the affiliate income. So there's some wonderful ones that it's the gift that keeps on giving forever. It's like, so I had courses and I had some other stuff on Podia, which is a course platform. They do memberships, all kinds of stuff. And so they had a perpetual affiliate payout for anyone who signed up for Podia to do their own thing. And they pay you out every month. So you do one like affiliate blast and you attract people to sign up for Podia. And now you're getting affiliate revenue from them forever, for years and years and years. I think they recently changed it. That's legacy now because they're like, this is costing us too much money. But ConvertKit has stuff like that. Almost every platform has that. And it can be a really good source of income, especially if it's a high ticket item. So if it's a high ticket item that costs quite a bit to sign up for, you can get a pretty nice affiliate revenue from that. If it's lower, then you really need a lot of volume. So if you have a large audience, like you have a pretty good audience on Twitter, or a pretty good audience on your newsletter, I know a lot of folks that are making really good money from affiliate income that way. So they send it out to their newsletter people and like, oh, try out this new service, and they get 5%. And it can end up being some significant money. It can be pretty good.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask the last question, which is a cue for our audience members to type in that question that you've been afraid to ask or thought you might have some more time to ask. So my last question is, what questions do you have for this community of founder design thinkers?
Yeah. My biggest question I always have for people as a coach, it's kind of unbiased, obviously. The question I have is, why are so many people reluctant to work with a coach? So this is something I've discovered over the years is I call it, some people call me their secret weapon, which is, oh, you're my secret weapon. I don't want anybody to know about you. And they're like, okay, good for you. Not so good for my secret. I don't want people to know that I need help. How to get a job. I feel bad that I don't. I'm going to hire a coach, but I don't want anyone to know about it. I'm never going to talk about it. I've had people literally say, I'm not going to comment on any of your LinkedIn posts because I don't want people to know I need help, or I don't want my boss to know I'm looking for a job, things like that. So that is the question, because if you look at the highest performers across other industries and professions, they have coaches. CEOs have coaches. Every CEO you know has a coach and an advisor. Olympic athletes all have coaches. There isn't a world-class Olympic athlete who hasn't been coached. So why do we feel like it's embarrassing to have a coach when it's actually a fantastic thing? Because if you want to reach your full potential, you need someone outside yourself to look at you and to say, here are ways that we can take you to the next level. And you could be more successful and you could be happier. So yeah, I'm a little biased, but I am curious why people feel that way, why they feel like I don't want people to know I need a coach.
Like they're asking for help as if they are not able.
Exactly. Yeah, they feel deficient. Like, oh no, I need a coach. It's like, no. When I got a leadership coach, in my last company, I had 2 executive coaches. I was excited. I was like, sweet, I've got executive coaches. They're going to make me even better at what I do. I'm going to get better at public speaking. I was thrilled about it. I loved working with my coaches. I thought it was kind of a badge of honor to get a coach. So but I have encountered this a lot now, that there are a lot of people like, I don't want people to know I'm getting coached. So I am curious about that thought process and how I can help people get past it and see a good way through it.
Yeah, when I did a lot of national public speaking for Capital One, I had so many coaches. I had like a whole design team. Like, that's not the content. Iterate some other content.
Yeah,
I practiced every day. It was like amazing.
Yes, coaches are great. Yes, I agree.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I'm going to ask actually one more additional bonus question.
Sure.
So on this path to solopreneurship while you're still employed, how long should it take? Like, where you're not going too slow, but you're going fast enough to be like, at this time, I should be able to have, I don't know, 1,000 followers. Like, what is the time frame and success metric that you recommend?
Yeah. I mean, if you're employed, it does take time, right? But it is the safest way to do it because now you're investing in yourself. So it's kind of like you're using your paycheck to bankroll your solopreneurship. And of course, you should be doing this off hours. Do not do any work during your business hours. I always warn people, I'm surprised at the people who still do it. So they're doing work on their business when they should be working for their employer. They're doing work on their business on the employer's laptop. Do not do that. Ever, because they could own your intellectual property. Don't do that. So do it at night, do it on the weekends, carve out some time for it. It takes a little bit of time to get traction. So I'd say more important, and every solopreneur coach I know says this, like, don't obsess about your followers, obsess about your customers. Because your followers aren't necessarily your customers. I have a lot of people that have hired me that don't necessarily follow on social media. They're like, I don't have time for LinkedIn or Twitter or anything like that. But they hire me. So it's all that matters at the end of the day is somebody hiring you. So what you want to see is growth in engagement, growth in success, growth in repeat business and referrals. That's more important than anything. It's like, does that person want to work with you, keep working with you? Do they want to work with you again? Do they tell their friends to work with you? Because now you're onto something. The thing that you need to see is that it's repeatable, it's successful. And if you added more to it, more time, more marketing, more whatever, it's going to grow. Because the worst thing is to have something that you're getting lots of engagement online and all this stuff, but not a single dollar is coming in. You don't have a business. You're just doing social media. And if you quit your job and went all in, you're going to be spending all your time on social media and still making $0. So see that you have something that's working, that you can tune it, make it good and frictionless and repeatable, because you're going to learn a lot. You make a lot of mistakes in your first year of business. Get that out of the way early, like while you're still employed. Right. So now you have a streamlined business. You got all your tools set up. Like you said, your tech stack, everything's really working well. And now if I put more gas in the tank, this thing's going to grow like crazy. And now I can quit my job and go all in on this thing.
I see. So is it like a client every quarter for a year, or what kind of like metric?
I would look at, more than a quarter, but I would be looking at your monthly engagement and say, I should be getting, depends on what your product is, obviously. So if it's a product or something you're selling, you need to look at the volume and say, is that enough volume to sustain me? And if I added more marketing, it's going to get to a certain level of revenue. Or are these enough customers if I'm providing a service like coaching or whatever, right? that it's keeping me pretty much full and busy in my free time. And I know I could do even more if I didn't have this job, right? I could
Perfect.
coach even more people, right? Yeah. So I'd be looking at your monthly numbers, like how much volume are you doing?
Okay. And then promise last question. Danielle's question is she's concerned about the cost.
Mm. Let me look at that.
Coaches are only for people at the exec plus level, not me.
Oh, interesting. Coaches, so there's different types of coaching. So that's why I've added in the last, I don't remember how many years ago I started this, I added group coaching. So I saw a need for a lower cost coaching service where they could get some access to me and not private one-on-one, obviously. Way more affordable, way more affordable. So like for my community to have kind of my premium challenges I do every week, to be in my community talking with me and other tech professionals, some of them executives, it's $15 a month. Who can't afford $15 a month, if they care about their career? So I try to make it really approachable. A lot of career coaches are a lot less than you probably think an exec coach would be. Some people charge like $97 an hour for a call. Some go way up. Like there's one guy, I won't name his name. Somebody was complaining about rates and I said, here, I want you to check out this guy's page. And he does executive coaching for $5,000 an hour. And I said, yeah, this can get pretty expensive. So I would say, $197 an hour. That's a bargain compared to $5,000 an hour. So, yeah, sometimes you have to level set with people and say, here's the range of what's possible. But yeah, you can find a coach that is really affordable, much more affordable. And you should not overlook group coaching and cohort coaching. Sometimes there's a cohort like 10 people. And so it's you and 10 people or 9 other people with a coach that meet every week. And it's really helpful because you're learning not just from the coach, you're learning from the other people and you're learning from the problems they're having that maybe you're not having this week, but you're going to have it 2 months from now. And now you heard them get coached on how to deal with it. And so you're like, oh, I remember that problem. Now I know how to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really powerful. And you build relationships and friendships. It's a good thing.
Well, Bruce is saying a great coach is like having a great accountant or lawyer. There's RI in relationships.
That's right.
They maximize value by ensuring you're not leaving money and opportunity on the table. Combined across those disciplines, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars at scale under my LLC in San Francisco to maximize value for my business, clients, and my career. The biggest lesson I have learned was the untapped potential and value by hiring a leadership coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Bruce. Yeah. Yeah, you are. You're leaving money on the table if you're not using your full potential. You just really are. And I think more people are capable of more than they think. The people undersell themselves. It's like, you're great at what you do. You could be even greater. Don't be shy. Go for it. Go for what you really think you should be getting and find a way to get there and be confident about it. A lot of people need help with confidence, but it's helping people believe in themselves again. So I tell people, I'll believe in you until you believe in you and get you to the point where you're feeling really confident. You're like, yeah, I am good at what I do. They should pay me for that.
How is this different than mentoring? Because if you get a really good mentor or sponsor in your company,
Sure.
right,
Yeah.
they provide similar advice. So how is coaching different?
Coaching is different in that the person has this contractual relationship with you. So with mentors, it's like, do they have the availability? So that's the thing, is like a mentor can only take on so many people and they can only work with you if they have availability. And so if they have a busy quarter, and like I had some mentors that were executives and they're like, I'm just slammed and I can't talk to you for like 3 months. It's not so helpful. But with a coach, you're like, you have a contractual agreement. So that, hey, let's have a call every week or every month or whatever it is that you're doing. So a coach is completely working for you. They will make time for you because you're paying for their time. A mentor, it depends. If they're available, great. If they're not, too bad. They're too busy. Or they could terminate it. They're like, I just can't do any more mentoring. I already have 3 people I'm mentoring. So good luck. It's hard to find a mentor in a company that you can always talk with and always be on demand because they just can't be. They've got their own job and their own life. It's not what they do for a living. So they're already working a full-time job and now they're supposed to make time to mentor all these people. They can't do that much of it. They just can't.
Well, We're at the hour mark. Thank you so much, Larry, for making us invincible.
That's the idea. If we're all invincible, we get to call the shots in our work and life. Absolutely.
How do we get in touch with you with questions and follow-up?
So I am on Twitter or X. Don't get me started. Cornett, Cornett. So you can find me there. You can go to invinciblecareer.com, and that's my domain. There's access to my newsletter. There's access to get to my community and stuff like that. And I'm on LinkedIn. I've done a lot of SEO, so I'm pretty good on web search. You go search for Larry Cornett, and you'll most likely find me in the first page of results. I'm all over the place.
That's rocking. Well, I'll do my outro. So I'm Jay-Z, founder designthinking.com. I offer 20% referrals if you refer design thinking and user research work to me. The next couple of episodes will be about user research with true fans, pivoting a product that is not working into like a tech stack that you can externalize and sell. We're doing some game design and then a lot of AI coming in October. So I would say subscribe when I get my Substack, but definitely follow and share any potential podcast guests and clients with me through my Calendly or my LinkedIn. So thank you so much, Larry, for all these words of, I guess, encouragement and having been there, experience. Yeah.
I want people to feel hopeful. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Well, I will end the live stream for everyone else, but you and I can stay on for any feedback and next steps. All right. Thanks, everyone.